Hello, I'm Elisa Zhang, and I'm a physician and life and money coach. So, as physicians, we are privileged to generally have fairly large incomes, and so many of us qualify for what's called an accredited investor. So, what is an accredited investor? So, it's defined by having at least $200,000 of income for the last 2 years and likelihood that you'll continue to make $200,000, and that's for an individual. If you're a married couple, it can be a combined income of $300,000 for the last 2 years and likelihood that you'll continue that 300,000. So if each of you make 160,000, so combined it's over 300,000, that would make your household an accredited investor as well. The final definition is having 1 million in net worth, not including the equity in your primary residence. So $1 million in your stock portfolio, your retirement accounts, your, the hard assets, so to speak. So that's the definition of accredited investor. And if you're an accredited investor, then you can invest in, something called syndications. And what is a syndication? I get asked that fairly often. So when you look at, big apartment complexes or big corporate buildings, a lot of times these are owned by essentially a LLC or company, and usually a syndication is what actually owns that building. So a syndication is essentially a group of investors coming together, go after an investment. So, in these cases, like, a group of investors to investing in a big, large, apartment complex coming together can be a syndication. Now, there are different ways that a group of investors can come to invest together in a property. But with the syndication, typical structure is that you've got essentially a professional investor, the sponsor or syndicator, who kind of finds the deal and is doing all the organization of the deal. And usually that'll actually be a team of people. So, they're the people who, like, let's say, find the apartment complex, get it under contract, and hire, figure out like property management and all that, get the loan from the bank. But in order to buy that property, they still need to have 20-25% down payment in order to purchase the property. And these investors, they're doing deals all the time, so they don't have necessarily all the money to buy as much as they can find, as all the great deals they can find. So then they look out to other investors or accredited investors so that they can market to them and then advertise these investments that they want to pursue, and raise money, capital, in order to be able to have the down payment and potentially also to have money for things like renovation of the project. So, so then you as an accredited investor can actually purchase a part of the syndication. And when you're purchasing part of the syndication, you're purchasing kind of a share in the business that is undergoing this investment, that will actually buy the property that's being invested in. So, minimums for syndications can vary, but often, it can be 25,000, 50,000, even 100,000. With a syndication, there's usually a limit in the total number of investors that can be involved. And so depending on how large that investment may be, if they have to raise so many millions of dollars, then the minimum per person may be higher. So basically, you as the accredited investor can, it's your responsibility to do the due diligence to see if it's an investment. But once you do that and you make the investment, then you'll wire the money over. You'll get, contracts and certification of your share in that company that's investing in that property. And then usually you'll get some shareholder reports. Essentially, it could be quarterly, it could be monthly, it could be annually. And at some point, so a lot of these commercial loans for these properties are for 5 years. So typically what will happen is that around 3, 4, 5 years, the property will have appreciated, they'll have increased the rents, they may have done renovations to make the place nicer, and then they'll sell it to somebody else, or they may refinance the loan. If the loan gets refinanced, then you may continue to own in that syndication, but get back a lot of your capital and continue on, or they may go ahead and just sell the building to probably another syndication, and then you'll get the money back that you invested plus additional profit. So some syndications will pay dividends during the time of the property, and some may not. So, there can be syndication for all sorts of real estate investments, including like development projects. So if you're developing a property, so you're building a brand new apartment complex, and then chances are you're not going to actually have distributions because they're using all that money to actually do the building, and there's not actually cash flow coming in. Whereas if you invest in a syndication that buys an apartment complex, then you have rents coming in, and so you have positive cash flow, and so then you can get distributions from that cash flow. So, when you're looking at investing in syndication, you also want to think about what your goals are. Are your goals to really, have an increase in the amount of money you get at the end of the syndication, or is your goal to have constant cash flow so that you're getting a check every month or every 3 months in order to help pay for your expenses now because you've retired early? So that is a super quick overview of being an accredited investor and what a syndication is. So there's not a whole lot out there to help you learn about syndications, but there is one really great book that was published by Bigger Pockets. So it's The Hands-Off Investor by Brian Burke. And I highly recommend this book. It is a little dense, but it is very complete. And, I don't know what I paid for this book. Maybe, I guess the retail price is $24.95. So, you can't beat that for the amount of education that you're going to get out of this book. Of course, there are lots of people who invest in syndications. So, talking to other people who've done it and gleaning from their experience, talking to the people who actually do syndications. I mean, that is always, you can get education on syndication. So I will continue to, do these kind of videos to bring you more education, including potential future videos more specifically on syndications. So if you found this information useful to you, please subscribe to this YouTube channel so I can bring you more information just like it. If you would like to work with me and actually learn about how to get your money mindset around actually doing these kind of investments and the possibility of all the different kind of investments that are out there, then set up a consultation call with me. You can do that at my website, growyourwealthymindset.com, and just click on consult with me, set up a time. I'd love to talk to you. Thank you.